along Highway 65. We're going to be watching storms like that. And I think a lot of these storms this afternoon are going to start to rotate. We are fully staffed here this afternoon. We have meteorologist Austin Burks and meteorologist James Bryant. James, there are several supercell thunderstorms that are out there.
That's right. I'll start with the storm that you were just looking at. It's very close to US 65 near Pendle, east of Western Grove. Really, it's about to move out of Searcy County and off towards the northeast. Verona, Bruno, along Arkansas 235. Those are the locations that have an immediate threat. Back towards the west and northwest, we do not have an immediate threat yet. There are several storms, though, that you do need to be aware of that we are going to be watching. And let me pull those up for you. We're going to be tracking at least one tornado-warned storm for at least the next few minutes, but there's going to be other storms for us to watch. We are watching one couple of storms that are developing out in Yell County and Scott County, another one near Mena, and maybe another one in parts of Logan County. This round is moving off towards the northeast, so this is an immediate threat to watch for Russellville, Perryville, Conway, Clinton, Greenbrier. Just keep an eye towards the west. We know what storms are capable of today. They can produce tornadoes. We just want to be watching very closely these storms as it moves off towards the northeast. I'll look back towards the southwest because there's going to be other storms that do develop, and any moment now we're expecting the National Weather Service to post another tornado watch for most of Arkansas. It is warm. It is humid. It is just one of those days in Arkansas weather. I think there's a high wind threat, but I also think there's a threat for a few significant tornadoes as well. Let's go back to the tornado-warned storm, the more immediate threat. That's going to be up in North Arkansas, and that is going to be along US 65, St. Joe. This is going to be just towards the north of St. Joe. The area of rotation that we are looking at is really about to exit Searcy County. It'll be getting into the southern portion of Baxter County here in just a bit. It's going to be moving off towards the northeast at roughly this looks like 45 miles per hour. That includes a section. There's several counties included in this, part of Boone, Baxter, Newton, Marion, and Searcy, Arkansas, Searcy County, rather. But the rotation is in northern Searcy County, Baxter County, further on down the road. It'll be passing near Yellville here within the next 20 minutes. I'm going to put a storm track on this. It's moving at a pretty good pace, and this is the first tornado-warned storm of the day. We think this could be a pretty long afternoon as storms develop and move across an environment very supportive of tornadoes. This is a storm that's moving pretty quickly again. Mountain Home 238, and then down the road there, maybe very close to Gassville within the next 30 minutes. Again, that is the first warning we've got. We've got an area to the west of storms that's developing haven't seen a ton of rotation yet. Let's go ahead and look at the storm that's passing through Scott County. There's been some rotation in these storms out here from Scott and into Yell County. I think there's a good chance that we see these two storms try to organize over the next 30 minutes, and that is something that we're going to have to really, really watch for. I think there's a good chance that we will see other tornado-warned storms this afternoon, maybe even closer to central Arkansas. All right, looks like there's quite a bit of strong rotation now up along US 60, just north of US 65. Again, that storm is getting ready to exit Searcy County. We're going to look at it in velocity, and the area of rotation just continues to get stronger. I'm now kind of concerned that we may have something trying to get down there as we exit Searcy County and go up into the Yellville area. Meteorologist Austin Burks is going to be on social media today, and he's working our VRAD computer, and really just we're watching everything, all different angles. We're going to be looking at storm chasers. Austin, what do you have?
I'm not seeing any reports of anything yet. Obviously, we're still up in an area where there might not be enough chasers, but like you mentioned just a second ago, we are seeing that tightening there of that rotation there just to the southwest of Yellville. Again, that tornado warning goes until 2:30. Let me zoom in here on our storm scan computer. That area of rotation you can see is right to the north and east of Western Grove. Again, this storm quickly racing off towards the east and northeast, tightening up there a little bit, so a tornado could be imminent in these locations there in southwest Marion County. So get in your tornado safe spot. I know it's pretty sparse with population out in these locations, But again, anyone around Yellville and off towards the south, take your immediate tornado precautions. Still seeing the National Weather Service also saying that the rotation is tightening up with that couplet there, again in southwest Marion County, but still seeing this storm racing off northeast pretty quickly there. I believe around, if I remember right, 55 miles per hour. So this storm quickly going to continue to move off towards the north and east. We'll go back to base reflectivity to show you that storm. Just to the north of St. Joe, we're also tracking a couple of storms there, like James and Barry just mentioned a minute ago, down towards Clarksville, West Arkansas. Again, this is really just the start of this event as these storms really start to enter a better atmosphere here later this afternoon, the evening hours, more conducive for potential tornadoes. So this is that one storm we are watching just to the southwest of Yellville. Still not seeing any definite signatures that there is a tornado on the ground, but doesn't mean that you don't need to be in your tornado shelter. Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. If you have a tornado shelter, that's the best place to go, underground or a basement. But again, if you're in a mobile home, try to find a sturdy place to go, maybe a friend's house or somewhere down the street that might have a sturdy shelter to be in there just to the south of Yellville. That's one of the next places in line, just south of Yellville. Not sure if you're seeing anything else, Barry, hearing any reports?
Now, I just want to give kind of an overview of what we've got going on today. The high-risk area is over into East Arkansas. If we can go to source number 2, and the high risk goes all the way back to the Little Rock area, and then there's a moderate risk, which is really a high risk as well. And the storms are moving into this enhanced risk area, so we don't want to discount the fact. We just think the atmosphere is a little more buoyant, or air rising rapidly as you get out into central, eastern, southeastern Arkansas a little bit later this afternoon. But already you can see there's plenty of rotation in the atmosphere, and the storms are plenty tall enough. The tornado watch is in effect all the way down to Little Rock. That will be extended off to the east. And then we're watching the storms that have developed. And there are several severe thunderstorm warnings out into the western part of the state. But we are not seeing rotation yet with those. It's the one that's on up to the north. And we're going to continue to watch these storms all the way from Scott County up through Yell County now and headed up toward Pope County and Dover. And then our tornado warned storm, which obviously is the strongest one of this. And boy, this thing is really wrapped up as it moves into Marion County out of Searcy County. So this is Highway 65. It's north of there and will continue moving off to the northeast. It checks 50 miles per hour. These storms are moving. They're going to be moving very rapidly because the upper level winds are blowing at such a rate. And these storms are going to grow quite large because there's so much heat and instability. They're going to get up and they're going to really tap in to the upper level winds, and they're going to grow at an alarming rate, something we call the lapse rate. And the lapse rate is just off the chart. That just means the storms grow, the air rises very, very rapidly. Here is the, for that sheer, that marker there of winds going away from the radar site and toward the radar site is right over Bruno on 235, and that's up into Marion County. It will head eventually on up toward Yellville and along Highway 14, where 235 and 14 come together up in that part of the state. And I just fear we're going to see returns like this. We're going to see radar scans like this in several spots today because the winds are just so conducive to these thunderstorms developing. So if you're in that area, southwestern Marion County, you need to be in that safe spot. Got to put a lot of barriers between you and the outside. Don't get to where you can see glass. That's a good lesson for all of us. Get to the lowest level of the structure and the most interior part as it continues to move off to the northeast. Still looking, though, at other storms. And again, I think we're going to see this, James, I think we're going to see this a whole lot this afternoon.
Yeah, and one thing that I am closely monitoring is the potential for other development way out in front of the line. We're actually seeing that across part of eastern Arkansas. There's another cell that's developing over part of Perry County. Anything that gets out away from the massive storms could be a tornado producer at some point. Right now, we just have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings really in the Little Rock TV market, but we do have that one tornado warning that's up in North Arkansas. And really, I feel like the longer this drags on, the longer it took storms to get their act together, the worse off we were going to be today, because it allowed us a long time to really warm up. I mean, it's 80 degrees. The dew point is well into the 60s, and the winds are really, really moving. So that is just kind of the situation. We're watching what's out here in eastern Arkansas. I want to show you real quick what's happening in the western part of Arkansas with the storms that are moving out of really Polk County and into Scott County. And I'll stop the image there for you. We are, right now, it kind of looks like a jumbled mess. I don't notice a ton of rotation embedded with anything that's out there. But the concern is that these storms that are out here could begin to organize into supercells just based on the wind profiles today. So we'll be watching that to see if that occurs. It is a high-risk day. That means tornadoes are a bit more likely than they would be on any other type of severe weather day. It means some of those tornadoes could be strong, but it doesn't mean everybody gets a tornado. We do think there will be some, and we think the tornado threat really is highest between 5 and 8 p.m. from central into eastern Arkansas. This is just kind of the beginning stages. There's going to be some hail today, too. I wouldn't be surprised to see some hail out there in some of these storms. Austin, is there anything from the Weather Service about a tornado being down in North Arkansas? Have there been any reports or anything like that?
No reports that I've seen yet, which is good news. But again, like you've shown, the rotation still a little bit on the tighter edge there in southwestern Marion County, so meaning there could be a tornado imminent in those locations. If we take a closer look at the storm scan radar again, you can see where that storm is sitting at over towards areas of southwest Marion County. We'll zoom in down towards I think Highway 14. Some areas to note there. Around 14 is that could be in the line of this potential tornado is around Victory Independent Baptist Church. If you know where that's at, this could be in the line of that potential tornado. Another Baptist church, New Hope Baptist Church there in southern Marion County, south of Yellville. And a little further down the line, there's another church, maybe a place to note if you drive by it, Lighthouse for Jesus Tabernacle. So there's a couple of churches down just south of Yellville that could be in the path of this potential tornado. So if you know anybody that lives in those areas, if you drive by that every day, place of mind, get in your tornado safe spot. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Lowest, sturdiest part of your home. Again, tornado shelter would be the best part, but if you don't have one, again, a basement would be good as well, or just put yourself inside of a closet. Grab a helmet. Protect your head in some form or fashion that you can. Again, watching this in the last couple of minutes, rotation has kind of stayed the same. A little tight, but not overly tight enough where it's just a definite tornado there just south of Yellville. But anybody in Yellville, south of Flippin in Marion County, get in your tornado safe spot. Again, this storm is moving off towards the east at 50 miles per hour pretty quickly, and maybe some hail mixed in along with that. James, I'm not seeing any more reports of, thankfully, any indications that this is producing a tornado. But again, doesn't mean that it won't here in the next couple of minutes. Hopefully it doesn't, but we'll continue to monitor it as it is sliding off towards the north and east at 50 miles per hour.
All right, let's come back over here and we'll show you. I just want to show you the progression of what the modeling is saying about the progression of these storms. And it's doing a fairly good job on where these storms are now. So the initialization of them is pretty good. But when does it make it into Conway, to Little Rock, into central Arkansas? Well, let's take a look, and you'll see that this is moving in about the speed that would take it here around 5 p.m. Now, it could be a little earlier than that. It could be a little later than that. Looks like it's holding out to the west a little bit, but we're talking about late afternoon here. And there will be storms that are embedded within this line, kind of a semi-broken line. And I don't think the modeling is showing the stuff that will be developing out in eastern Arkansas very well. And that's already starting to develop. So hopefully new guidance will have a little better handle on that. I just want to show you, though, that will be progressing through the state. There'll be large storms then out by themselves on the leading edge of this around 7 o'clock. And we think the tornado threat really is very, very high with this system coming in. Let's go back to our radar right now. And again, it's western Arkansas and northwest Arkansas where the storms have already broken out. And we're going to look at, okay, we're on storm scan. We'll go back to that. Yeah, there we go. And you can see there are severe thunderstorm warnings. The National Weather Service, and we are looking at the radar there, and it looks like that a hail core is going to be crossing I-40, and that's out to the west of Russellville. So that's out around London. out there, Nuclear 1. This is going to be an area that it looks like a pretty decent shot at hail, but I don't see any obvious sign of rotation along with that. The rotating storm is on up to the north, and it's in Marion County right now. And so let's go back to that storm on Yellville, just to the south of it. But if you're in Yellville right now, and I know a lot of folks watch Springfield television, not officially in our market here in the Little Rock area, but there still is rotation there, maybe not quite as strong as it was as it moves up through the Yellville area, be moving over toward Flippin and along Highway 62 eventually as this storm continues. The rotating part of the storm anyway. There are other parts of the storm with hail and wind, certainly a possibility, and very, very heavy rainfall. But that is the storm that is rotating right now, and we're going to continue to watch it. But we're going to go back to, I just want to keep perspective of where we are, because here's Little Rock, and still well off to the west into the River Valley right now, some of those storms. We're going to watch all of those for the possibility of rotation. I would say that western part of the state is not as conducive initially, as these start to go up, to tornadoes, but they are certainly possible. As these storms get farther east, I think the tornado threat's going to go up, and it'll depend on certain things like surface winds and surface wind direction, because if that wind starts to come out of the south-southeast instead of the southwest like we have at Little Rock right now, that's when you have something called wind shear, and that's winds coming from a different direction at different altitudes, and it makes just the atmosphere a whole lot more conducive to tornadoes happening. So we're going to watch that carefully as well, and for any storms that develop out in advance of all of this. But the storm that is still of note is the tornado warned storm up in Marion County and right around Yellville. You just look at that, you say, well, I don't know where the rotation is. That's the beautiful thing about Doppler radar, because you can see the wind field. Now, this is a long way from the radar site, so this rotation is up over a mile in the atmosphere. So we don't absolutely know that there's a tornado on the ground, but in this kind of atmosphere, I will tell you, at the first sign of rotation, the National Weather Service, who is charged with issuing these warnings, they're going to issue warnings today. And that's a good thing. We need to be safe rather than sorry today. So you're going to see a lot of tornado warnings. You're going to see a lot of us on air covering tornado warnings today. Unfortunately, it's the last thing we want to do is to break into programming, but it is what we are going to do, because your safety is our primary concern, and we're going to continue to watch all of these storms. This one just southeast of Yellville and headed up toward Flippin in north central Arkansas. James?
All right, while we've got some time, we're only tracking one tornado-warned storm. All these little dots right here represent public tornado shelters, and they're scattered about central Arkansas. I can't zoom in on each one. Some of them are gray. Those are schools, and those are only open outside of school hours, and that won't be an issue here in about another hour and a half, and many schools have dismissed early. These green ones, though, are other open public tornado shelters. This was developed by a graduate student at Mississippi State. If you see one of these in your area, if you need a tornado safe spot to go to, like let's say you live in a mobile home or maybe some shelter that you do not feel is adequate enough, maybe find out exactly which one. We don't have enough time to go through every single one, but I do know in a place like Conway, the Conway Public School System does have tornado shelters available for people, especially once the schools are closed, and I believe they had dismissed as of 1 o'clock. The areas that we're monitoring, we're continuing to watch southeast Arkansas very close. We've got some storms bubbling up, and if these can become sustained, they can absolutely produce tornadoes. That's something that we're going to be watching just as we go through the next hour or so. The storms that are a lot more mature are back towards Russellville and Waldron and Mena. And as these storms get their act together, I think they're going to encounter ingredients off towards the east that make them pretty strong storms. Regardless of tornado potential, I think it's going to make them really strong thunderstorms, large hail, high winds, and then the tornado threat will increase with time. What we're looking at right here is what we call velocity. Basically, we're just looking at the wind up in a storm. And there's the wind that's going away from the radar and the wind that's going towards the radar. So we do have some rotation along this line of storms. We'll see if any of these areas can begin to spin, and if they can, that's where we're going to be starting to see tornado potential. That's with the line of storms that is coming through Scott and Polk counties. We don't have any severe warnings out here right now. This is really just an area of thunderstorms, but it's an area of a lot of thunderstorms that we think could be maturing as they move further towards the east. Looks like some large hail is crossing I-40, as Barry said just a few minutes ago. We have the area of thunderstorms through Logan County, Johnson County, and the one that just crossed I-40 northwest of Russellville. And then the storms extend back down into Scott and Polk counties further towards the east. Really, things are all quiet right now. We don't expect a threat really to ramp up in the metro area until we get to 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. Storms are going to become a lot more numerous, and embedded within these lines of storms, we think there's going to be a high threat for tornadoes, and I think there's also a high threat for straight-line damaging winds, which can be just as impactful as tornadoes. And as you look back down the line, this is from the Shreveport radar. That's a really concerning look. As we just look back into southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas, you've got individual cells beginning to form. We'll see how long that lasts, but these are going to be moving into western Arkansas, also looking at some new development over Pike County. It's really just about what can organize here over the next 60 to 90 minutes. I think this is when we really start to see things ramp up. So as the first tornado warning storm has moved out of the Little Rock television market, really it's all the way into Marion County, and it's beginning to enter Baxter County now. We want anyone who's in a tornado warning polygon today to seek shelter. And I really want you to take warning serious today, because tornadoes today, they could be on the stronger side. I don't think all of them will be, but they could be. That's the type of atmosphere that's in place today. And if you get that tornado warning notification on your phone, make sure if you drop out of coverage because your area is not under a tornado warning, come back to us. You can watch us over the air, Channel 7, KATV.com/watch. If you want to go ahead and download the KATV News app, you can watch our streaming coverage on the News app as you make your way to a shelter or to some other safe place. Also on a web browser on a phone, you could just type in KATV.com/watch, and you can stream us right there on your phone. Again, it's just 2 o'clock, so things are just kind of getting underway, and I think we're just going to stay with this for a little while as we kind of expect things to get a little bit more active. There's a couple of zones that we want to watch very closely. We are expecting a new tornado watch to be issued here at some point by the Storm Prediction Center. It's going to cover most of the state. There was one in effect from earlier this morning, but it'll be expiring soon, and they're going to issue another watch for the entire state. This is the broad overall picture. There's a big gap here, central, southern parts of eastern Arkansas, where nothing is happening right now. We know a lot of school districts went with early dismissal just to avoid the chance of having these storms coming in during the school day. I will tell you, as we have kind of looked at the way the atmosphere is right now, I think these storms, as they get right on the doorstep of central Arkansas, they're going to intensify. So damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes possible. And I think that's really going to be the main risk 4 to 7 p.m. before it shifts towards the east. I don't think anybody in the state should be letting their guard down, though. Stay with us. Be aware of the weather as it's changing around you. It can change very, very quickly. You can have a storm 1 minute that's not producing a tornado, go on to produce a tornado. So we're going to be watching it very closely. We're here for the long haul. I imagine we'll be on here for at least the next 7 or 8 hours. Austin Burks is here. We've got a number of storm chasers set up, feeds that we can take today. I think it'll be a little bit before we have anything real to show you, because right now we just have a few thunderstorms out there. But Austin is here in the Weather Center, and he's looking over radar. He's looking over what the National Weather Service has to say. Austin, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was going to say the Marion County emergency manager did spot some rotation, at least a report of that there in southwest Marion County with this tornado warned storm. Also have been tracking, there is a storm chaser there in southwest Marion County as well, but I haven't seen any reports from that individual yet of any rotation, funnel cloud, wall cloud. But that person is also on the storm as well. You can take a look at Storm Scan again. We'll kind of get closer on some of these locations there in Marion County. This storm is about to cross over areas of the White River there, just south of Flippin, around 412, south of Gassville. Some areas to note, Rim Shoals Resort there along the White River could be in the path of this potential tornado. Looking further down the line as well, areas around, I believe, Highway or State Road 101, just south of 412 there. This storm, again, will get close to areas of Mountain Home here down the line. This storm quickly racing off at 50 miles per hour, looking a little bit closer towards where this area of rotation could be. Still a little more broad than what it was showing just several scans ago, which is good news, but doesn't mean it can't tighten up in a hurry. So if you know anybody from Gassville, down around 412, down towards the south of there, again around areas of Rim Shoals, Resort there along the White River, tornado safe spot immediately. Like I mentioned, we haven't seen any reports of any tornadoes with this one, but we'll continue to keep you updated with that. Barry, what are you hearing?
Yeah, not a ton more than what we're talking about. Just some of the observations around the state. There are storms that are beginning to develop down in the southeastern part of Arkansas. And the atmosphere, as characterized by the National Weather Service, is volatile down there. But they're just really in the beginning stages. And so we're looking back to the west and obviously the storm up into Marion County. So let's go to the storms that we have ongoing. And there's a severe thunderstorm warning in effect parts of Yell County and on up into Pope County as well, and eastern part of Johnson County. It's this storm that has the hail core on it, and that's out around Dover. And right now, I don't see any rotation associated with that storm. We're going to continue to watch that storm because the atmosphere is such that I think all of these storms that are tall and are hail producing, they're tall enough to tap into winds that have the potential to rotate or to change with height. And so those are the potential tornado storms. We do have also the storm that is moving from Yellville toward Mountain Home. You can see it right there. And right now, the rotation with that, I think, is maybe a little more broad than it was. But folks, this is a long way away from, if we can go back to source number 2. Yeah, we can go, and it looks like they're going to extend that tornado, kind of narrow it some, the tornado warning, and yeah, we're going to see that. But that's an additional tornado warning that's out in advance of what's going on up there. I'll be able to tighten in on that in just a second. That is the only tornado warning that we have in the state. I don't think it's going to be the last one that we see for today. And as we head right in, there we go. There we go. And we're coming up on Cotter and right along Highway 62 there. That's going to be the area that we're going to be going to. James, I'm going to send it over to you. It looks like you're in control of the map right now.
Yeah, I sure am. All right, well, the tornado warning was just reissued there as it's going to go through Baxter and into Fulton County. I think anytime you have an area of rotation that looks like it might produce a tornado today, they're going to issue that tornado warning. So it doesn't look like we've had one down, at least at this moment, but I think we're going to see storms eventually get stronger and stronger as they move towards the east. I'm going to stay on velocity mode as we look for areas of rotation, and we continue to look out into western Arkansas, Scott County, Polk County. Not seeing any strong areas of rotation, but definitely we'll continue to watch that line of storms because I think it could begin to rotate as we get through well, you say the next hour. I think really after the next hour, things really start to ramp up. The severe thunderstorm that's moving through Russellville, it's on the other side of Russellville, headed towards Dover. And that is on the north side of Dover where we could be seeing some large hail. And west of there, it's really just a big line of loud storms back toward the eastern section of Logan County, Mount Magazine, and up towards Clarksville and I-40. Again, the only tornado-warned storm in the state is right up there in North Arkansas with what we have really about to cut through most of Baxter County. It looks like the storm's moving pretty quickly. It's near Gassville. It's moving up towards Mountain Home, and then it'll eventually take it into maybe northwest Fulton County and towards the Missouri border. Some of those spots up into northeast Arkansas were hit not too long ago with a severe weather threat on March 14th. Let's look at the environmental conditions here while we're kind of waiting on these storms to get their act together. Temperatures east of that line of storms in the 80s. It's 80 degrees in Hot Springs, 83 in Monticello, and we have a kind of everything in place as these storms move east to produce tornadoes and wind damage. The tornado watch and warnings that you see here, the watch, this green area, is going to be expanded east across the rest of the state. And the only storm that's tornadic right now is the one we just talked about up in North Arkansas. There are a few severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. We're going to see probably a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings today, and then maybe flash flood warnings after that as we kind of enter into the flood threat tonight. So I think a lot of you joining us right now, at least if you're watching us from the Little Rock TV market and you're not under any tornado warning right now, we're just kind of getting you set for what could happen as we go through the late afternoon and evening. I think we're looking at a big line of storms with embedded supercells that could produce tornadoes and very strong winds. Straight line wind damage is a big threat today. Hot Springs, Little Rock, into Faulkner County, Cleburne County, that's the only area under a tornado watch right now, but we are any moment now expecting that tornado watch area to be expanded for almost the rest of the state. We do expect this to be kind of a longer winded event. It's going to take some time for these storms to get across the state. We hope that the severe weather threat really starts to wane as we get towards 7, 8, 9. We're really 9 and 10 o'clock tonight. I think we're kind of in the thick of it as we get towards 7 and 8 o'clock here just east of Little Rock. Currently, what's catching my eye is this storm that's coming through Mena. It's not rotating, but it kind of has the early shape of a storm that may try to rotate eventually. So just the people I want to keep an eye on this, and that's all we're doing right now, is just keeping an eye on it, out towards Mount Ida, maybe the southern part of Yell County, eventually Hot Springs Village, Perryville, Conway, maybe even the Little Rock metro area if this can move more towards the east. That is really our cell that we have to watch. Again, right now, not noticing any significant areas of rotation, but I don't think it'll take much as we get into the later part of today. I think there's actually some weak rotation showing up there on the south side of Mena. Yeah, there's some weak rotation in here, but not strong enough for a tornado warning right now. But this storm right here is one we're going to want to watch as we go through the next few hours. And again, if you're just joining us, I know we'll probably have a lot of people check in and watch. And so if you are watching us, you're like, well, they're just repeating themselves. You know, we're trying to make sure that everybody who's joining this stream gets the information that they need. Back into southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas, there's more isolated storms popping up. And then again, closer to the Little Rock metro area, doesn't look like we're seeing any significant development so far, but there are some radar returns north of Glenwood that I think we need to just keep our eye on. If that develops into a thunderstorm, it would be one that we really have to watch, anything in advance of that main line. Barry, I think you've got a really wide view of what we're watching today, and it's really the whole state that has to stay weather aware.
Yeah, the tornado warnings right now are in North Arkansas. We're going to need to go back to source number 2 if we can. And we'll show you that the tornado warnings extend from northern Arkansas up into Missouri. So that's the part that's getting really active, but we expect that to extend back down. And those storms that you mentioned on down into western Arkansas, those are going to be the ones that we watch very carefully. One thing, I'm just going to ask, you guys, we can stay with me. Does this look like a lot slower than it's the forward progression of this whole line is just a little slower, maybe. So yeah. I think, and that's one of the things James was mentioning, we've got more time to heat. We've got more time for this to destabilize. And as it then moves on out, I think we're going to see a number of tornado warnings. I just don't know how we can avoid it. I hope we do. Oh, do I hope we do. But I just don't know that that's going to be the case. Still looking at that rotation where the reds and the bright greens are together. This is way up in North Arkansas, flipping now over to Whiteville and headed toward Mountain Home. And there is a broad area of rotation there. The tornado warning has been extended, and it does include that area from Marion County, now moving over into Baxter County, along Highway 126, and it'll be moving right along Highway 62 there, maybe just to the north of Highway 62. And these storms moving at about 50 miles per hour. So this is a tornado-warned storm. I know not everyone up in that area watches us. They watch Springfield Television a lot. It's very much the fringe of the Channel 7 area. In fact, not technically in our area, but it is within the state. And we just want to show you what kind of a volatile atmosphere is in our state right now. As we head on down, the storm that is around Russellville and now up to the north of Dover, I don't see any obvious sign of rotation with that. It was a hail producer a little bit earlier on. We'll continue to watch for rotation, but the longer that it doesn't have rotation, the better. And then we go on down to those storms that are on down to the south. Now, I'm going to give you a little more of an overview. We will go back, and I'll send it back to those guys in just a second, but from Scott County back into Polk County, we're going to have to watch, especially the tail end of these areas and other individual cells that are out into Oklahoma and others that are developing on down to the south. But for now, let's go to southeastern Arkansas. And there are just scattered, really, showers that are trying to develop over in Phillips County, but those will quickly become storms. And so we're going to watch this area over into Phillips County, into southern Monroe County, and headed on up into Mariana, just for the possibility that those cells out by themselves could really start to grow. And there's just a tremendous amount of volatility in the atmosphere in those areas. So those are the things that we're watching. That's kind of the overview, and it's holding off for a long time. Austin, I think a lot of the modeling yesterday had this into the Little Rock area by, well, some of the earlier yesterday had it in by noon. Then some had it in by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Obviously, it's 70 miles, 80 miles west of that now.
Yeah, that's right, Barry. Since last night, we've noticed the kind of slowing down trend from each model run to what we are now. So it would have been great if this would have moved in at 2, 3 o'clock, like alluded earlier. But this is starting to get into the peak daytime heating of the day, so a more conducive atmosphere potentially for severe weather. There was a camera shot we had there in our iDrive there, I believe, on I-40 there, maybe in between Russellville and Clarksville, somewhere in that location looking eastbound. You can see a lot of stopped traffic there. People likely pulling over to the side of the road. I know there's a severe thunderstorm warning for that location right now. Possibly gusty winds, large hail, torrential rainfall, lots of lightning and stuff. If you are traveling on this road or know someone traveling on this road, tell them to take it very slow. Again, if they're parked under some bridge there and I can't see it, that is a big no-no. You don't want to do that. If you're traveling on any highway, any road source, do not stop under bridges. Try to pull over somewhere else if you can. That will impede maybe law enforcement or first responders if you do park under one of those bridges and cause potentially harm to some other people that might be in a life-threatening situation. So if we look again, maybe at VRAD here, we show you those storms that are moving through areas around I-40 in between Clarksville and Russellville. You can see a big line of storms really starting to get going there around Yell County, just to the west of Danville. Again, these storms are quickly racing off towards the north and east around 50, 55 miles per hour. And these storms are not tornado warned. That's good news, but we'll continue to watch on velocity here. The winds in the storm, not really seeing much right now in terms of any definite rotation at all. So continuing to be good news with these storms, but we'll
Austin,
continue to watch them. Yeah.
Go back up to the one in Baxter County, if you would, around Mountain Home.
Yep.
Weather Service says that that storm is tightening up just a little bit as far as the rotation is concerned.
We'll turn it back to
Let's see
basic reflectivity.
Yeah.
Looking, do we have a Springfield too far away still? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
So maybe a little bit of tightening there right outside moving into Mountain Home there, I believe around 412.
Right, that's where they're seeing it, right there, just coming into the west side of town. And so that's an area that's moving into a populated area, and you can see it a little bit better perhaps on this. It's a long way away from the radar side, I will tell you folks, but that is the kind of signature that you're looking for. And so if some of you, and I know a few of you, watch outside of our main Little Rock television market, get into a safe spot if you're in the Mountain Home area. This is going to be moving fairly quickly on through. These are progressively fast-moving storms, 50 miles per hour or so. And it looks like that rotation area is going to be moving right on up through that area. We're watching the others. Austin just mentioned there's no other rotation that we see that is notable anywhere else. James, you see anything?
Yeah, the storm that's coming out of Scott County and moving into Yell County has quickly intensified, and it's starting to show signs of a damaging wind threat. I think we've got some very strong winds that'll soon be coming into Briggsville and then maybe up towards Danville. It's moving generally in the east-northeast direction, and you see the bright greens there, the bright reds there. If at any point this storm can orient itself and begin to turn, we could see the tornado threat begin to increase along that line. So we are going to be really just sticking with that storm along the leading edge of that line. It's kind of got a bowed out feature to it. So we think 60-mile-per-hour winds are going to be possible with that one as we move east into Yell County. So Yell County, your damaging wind threat is increasing. The tornado threat, at least this point, on the lower side with this particular storm. These are the couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that we have out in western Arkansas. And again, down the road, if you live in Perryville, Morrilton, Conway, Mayflower, this storm is headed in that direction. And while it just kind of right now looks like a big area of rain, I mean, there's a chance that this storm could continue to intensify. It's moving into an area where it's been 80 degrees all day with an area that's really got more ingredients for severe weather the further east into Arkansas you get. So this red area is the wind moving away from the radar. The green area is wind moving towards the radar, but we don't really have a couplet, is what we call it yet, where you see the possibility of a tornado. This is more of a wind threat that we're watching going into Yell County. And the severe thunderstorm warning that's just towards the north, we continue to monitor that area for rotation, and we really don't see any on the storm that's moving into Pope County. We do have a live view from Mountain Home. Let's go to that.
Yeah, let's take a look at this if we can on. And I think there is a bit of a lowering there. I've looked at several cameras there. Tough to see anything else. This is looking out over the city from a little higher vantage point there. You can see maybe a little bit of lowering of the cloud base off to the left side, in the upper left side of your screen there. Hard to tell, though, exactly which way we're looking, but I believe we're looking southward because that American flag is maybe south or southeastward is moving kind of toward the radar there, so they would have a south wind. But looks like traffic is still moving around. That is a tornado-warned storm, though, up in Mountain Home, and we're going to continue to use the RDOT cameras as we go through the afternoon if storms move near those cameras. But as James mentioned, there is that wind threat over into the western part of Yell County.
Yeah, I think it's going to become a tornado threat at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's starting to buckle just a little bit there. Now it's a continuous threat. We can go back to me right here, but just keep an eye on that. We're going to keep an eye on that camera. But there are now 3 severe thunderstorm warnings all the way from that wind threat really coming into Yell County, wind threat so far, on up through the Russellville area, on up through Marshall now. So pretty much wherever that line, that broken line is, that's where there is going to be a warning. And moving right into the Mountain Home area now, there is that indication of some rotation. We'll go back to reflectivity on that. And you can see it's certainly a strong thunderstorm. It's just really far from the radar site there, but it would be maybe just on the northeast side of town of Mountain Home as it continues. The next scan will quickly take it up and up to the northeast. But that's the only tornado-warned storm in the entire state, and we continue to watch, and I'm just kind of looking at that. There's certainly a thunderstorm there in Mountain Home, but I don't see any obvious sign, and we might not see an obvious sign of rotation if there happens to be one there. We have storm chasers around the state. We're going to be going to them through the afternoon. But James, for now, that is the strongest storm, for now.
That's right. And this really being on where the storms aren't really in that life-threatening mode yet, it kind of gives us a chance to set the stage for you. And the longer I look at the data, I just think this is just not going to end well because all the main storms, it's 2:40 in the afternoon. Yesterday, we thought these storms might be on the east side of the metro area by this point. The main storms are still out over western Arkansas, and we've had a lot of time to warm up and see things get really unstable over the rest of the state so far today. So I want to show you Futurecast. I want to show you the latest version of a high-resolution model and kind of what things look like. As of Well, I'm going to have to looks like I'm going to have to update the graphic there, but here's the newest run there. So as we go through 3 and 4 o'clock and then get into 5 o'clock, what this model has is isolated cells popping up in advance of that line. Wherever they may be, they may not be in exactly that spot. Wherever they may be, the tornado potential really, really does start to increase. And of course, even along the line, on a day like today, you can still get significant tornadoes. As we go from 4 to 5 and 6 o'clock, there's even an indication that some of these isolated cells could be in the metro area, and you look down into southwest Arkansas, and it's really not just one solid line. It's a couple of pockets of clusters of storms. And in that scenario, I think these storms will have a heightened tornado threat really as this all migrates towards the I-30 and US 67 corridors. I know we have severe storms in western Arkansas right now. I just think things really kind of get more severe as we get up to the I-30 and US 67 or I-57 corridors. We'll go towards 6 o'clock now, and this is just new data that has just come in, and it's showing isolated supercells in advance of the main line and supercells embedded within the line, really from south to north across the state. Again, this is a situation where I think we will have numerous tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. I'll take you to 7 o'clock. The storm's getting on the other side of the metro area, becoming probably more of a wind threat, but a significant tornado threat could still continue because I think we're going to have cells embedded within this line that could produce tornadoes. Hopefully, as we get towards 9 and 10 o'clock, the threat starts to lessen, but I think it could hang on for a few hours more in southeast Arkansas. I think that's really the threat to watch. Here's the threat area today. And this is from the Storm Prediction Center. They draw these risk maps. This is just the tornado threat. Now, there are other severe weather threats, hail and wind. The tornado threat today is the most significant, though. And that really, really high risk, the extreme risk, is from northeast Arkansas into the eastern part of the state, though. If I was drawing this map myself, I would push it a little bit further towards the west. In any case, there's a high tornado threat. So you see the storms that are out over western Arkansas right now, as they move east, they really move into the region where that threat area is a little bit more favorable. So I've had tons of people ask me, what do I need to do? How can I make sure that I am safe? Well, you just have to have a way to get warnings. There's lots of ways to do that. You can set up wireless emergency alerts on your phone. The KTV weather app is a great way to do that. You can point your phone's camera at this QR code and download that from your phone's app store. And then you can get warning notifications set up. Make sure you turn on the location settings. You want to be able to get those warnings in the event that one is issued for your location. We think there will be a lot of warnings today, and taking action is what saves lives in the event of tornado warnings. And that's what we want you to be able to do. So there's the overview right now. The only tornado warning is moving into Fulton County soon. Lots of severe thunderstorm warnings right now. The tornado threat, we think, is going to increase as we move further into the afternoon. Barry?
All right, we have a picture of the storm that's up in North Arkansas, and you can see it over here. And this is an iDrive Arkansas camera, and you can see the storm line. You're looking kind of off to the west there as it moves over, I believe that's over Lake Norfolk, right? And that's the kind of the ragged edge to the bottom of that storm that is tornado warned. We'll leave that up there while we look at a close-in view of the velocity product. And so, yeah, it's going to be very close to there that you have the reds and the greens coming together. Now, this is, again, a long way from the radar site, but it would be very close to where that camera is, and this is kind of looking off to the west. And so we're going to kind of leave this up there, but that is a strong storm. It's passed through the Mountain Home area. We've seen a torrential downpour of rain there, but we still see traffic moving around the Mountain Home area. But this is the kind of the better view if you look off on our iDrive Arkansas camera there. Still folks are traveling in that area, and this is still the only tornado warned storm. James mentioned, though, that the threat is really going to increase, I think, later on. This will continue to move up toward the Missouri border in a little while, 50 mile per hour forward movement of all of this. And Highway 62 is stretching out there, out to the northeast of Mountain Home. And so we're going to continue to watch that storm, still looking like it has rotation along with it, and still a powerful storm as far as rainfall is concerned. But the leading edge of it is definitely within that area, And I don't see any obvious sign of rotation there. I'm going to probably leave it up, though, and we'll just keep monitoring it for you. Now, elsewhere around the state, we still have those 3 severe thunderstorm warned storms. Folks, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as our coverage for today, because I think the atmosphere is going to continue to be more conducive to tornado development as we head out into central and even eastern parts of the state a little bit later on, unfortunately. And we are hoping that that doesn't develop, but that's what the science of it is telling us, that we're going to start to see a more explosive development. And so this is the time to prepare. Where do you go? You go to the lowest part of your house. You go to the most interior part of your house, away from exterior walls and windows. Just know where you go, and then you don't need to waste any time. You just go there when a tornado warning, if a tornado warning is in your area. But these are alarming storms, and we're going to continue to watch them. I'll go on down to the one that's in Yell County right now, near Danville and Briggsville. And this storm, you can see a little, you can see a lot of wind bowing out. There is a little notch, I think, trying to form right there. And that's out to the west of Danville. And so, Danville, you are, this is a warned storm. A lot of wind energy along with this right now. So this storm is tapping in to the wind's loft. We just don't see obvious rotation quite yet. Boy, I think we've got to really watch this storm, though, fairly closely, and all storms that develop today. This is a time in technology where we can show you exactly where the rotation is, though. It's not guesswork like it used to be years and years ago. This is where the rotation is, and we're going to do our very best to keep you informed without scaring. We're just going to tell you what we see on here. And there you can see that storm up in North Arkansas continues to look rather ominous, but I don't see anything extending down from that cloud base right there. Austin, you're looking at, I'm sure, all these storms there. The one in Yell County looking a little more dangerous than it did.
Yeah, we've been seeing some reports there going back to the Marion County storm in Baxter County. There have been some reports of some power outages around maybe the areas the tornado warned storm went through there. If we take a closer look at radar, I can maybe kind of zoom in a little bit further up towards areas around Mountain Home. Now, this is probably 10, 15, 20 minutes ago. The reports are around to the southeast of Cotter, Arkansas. That's right where that tornado warned storm went there just about 15 minutes ago. Closer, maybe more notable location is around County Road 6062 is where the Energy is reporting some power outages there across areas just around the Marion County, Baxter County border. So not saying that this was a tornado on the ground, but it could have been some lightning, could have been some strong winds. Regardless, this storm is still racing quickly off towards the north and east, now past Mountain Home and off towards the Henderson area there in Baxter County. But again, looking at those storms down towards Danville, Dover, all the way towards Marshall, there are a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings there. Likely seeing some very strong winds potentially moving towards the Danville area here in the next 5 minutes or so. Still seeing that storm also towards the north of Dover. Quickly both sliding off towards the north and east. Thankfully not tornado warned at the moment, but doesn't mean they could quickly wrap something up here pretty shortly. So keeping an eye again on the National Weather Service chat for any reports for maybe damage, tornado reports, wall clouds. Thankfully haven't seen any right now. Not known if it was mentioned, but I know the National Weather Service is coordinating for a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch for the eastern half of the state. That'll come here pretty shortly as well. So expecting this severe weather event to continue on as we go here in the next couple of hours, entering that better atmosphere as well into East Arkansas for tornadoes later into the afternoon and back into the evening as well. James, not sure if you see any other signatures there, maybe in southwest or west of Danville?
Yeah, I think the Danville storm is really the one that we have to watch right now. I think it's starting to take on a shape where we could start to see some rotation intensify. Right now, it's a severe thunderstorm warning with high winds. This is coming right into Danville. There's Highway 10 that runs off towards the east. And this is going to be approaching Petit Jean here pretty soon. And it's really an east-northeasterly track, so this is going to end up going towards Atkins. Again, this is early. really the ingredients in western Arkansas not as favorable as they're going to be in central and eastern Arkansas. So that may be why these storms are struggling a little bit at the time. We're pretty early. I think we're about an hour away from the beginning of the peak threat, which will last for several hours before it begins to diminish. But definitely some rotation there west of Danville. And I'm willing to bet that we probably see it continue to strengthen. The National Weather Service is monitoring that very closely. We've got a little bit of a notch there on the northwest side of Danville. Danville, it's not a bad idea on a day like today. Just go ahead and move to an interior room. You've got just a few minutes before this thing will arrive. No tornado warning is in effect, but this is a pretty substantial storm there coming up with maybe some hail embedded in that and definitely some strong winds. You can expect 60-mile-per-hour winds coming through the center of Yell County here, and we've got the high terrain there towards the south, and there's Petit Jean off towards the east of Danville, but this is going to be racing off towards the northeast, eventually getting close to I-40, and I know we'll put this in motion, and I want to show you kind of where we're going to be tracking this as it moves towards the east and northeast. We'll get a direction on it very quickly. And it's moving east-northeast. And Austin, what was the storm speed on this?
The one for Danville?
Yeah.
40 miles per hour.
Okay, so it's not moving extremely fast, but it's moving pretty quick. It's moving at 40 miles per hour. There you see near Atkins at 338. And so the Weather Service is concerned 70-mile-per-hour winds are in this storm. Danville, it's knocking on your doorstep. It's going to be there any minute. 70-mile-per-hour winds with this thunderstorm. We think damaging winds are a big threat today. But aside from that, of course, we have the tornado risk, which will increase here over the next few hours. Still seeing a few showers out in advance of the line, and I think the longer it takes this line to really advance towards the east, the greater the chances are that we're going to see a storm develop out in the open, warm sector where there's really not much happening right now. In fact, I'll briefly take you just to do a little radar tour here. We're watching for development now. On the eastern side of Little Rock, there's a cell trying to go up north of Pine Bluff, and it may take several attempts. The little storm that was north of Monticello diminished, and that may happen for a little while before one really gets to develop and takes root. So we'll just be keeping an eye on that stuff. The one area of the state right now that really is what we watch right now is the storm that's going to be towards Danville, and then there's another severe thunderstorm warning back towards the west. And I actually just got a picture sent to me from Danville, and that's from Rick Paget. He's a law enforcement there in Danville, and it looks like a shelf cloud with very strong winds coming into Danville. So that's not surprising there. At least right now, I don't see evidence that tornado potential is imminent, but we're going to be watching for it very closely. Barry, that storm, and especially the storm up towards the northeast, the one that's to the southwest of Marshall,
Yeah.
it's kind of taken on supercell characteristics too. Not really seeing much low-level rotation, but you just get a feeling that storms are going to be getting their act together over the course of the next hour or so.
I thought the same thing about this storm right here. It has that shape to it. I don't see any obvious rotation, but the shape of these storms, and we're going to see a lot of these storms take on that shape today. I do want to mention that's the Lake Norfolk cam, iDrive Arkansas cam. And earlier, just a few minutes ago, you could see nothing but whitecaps all over that lake. So the wind, you mentioned the one in Danville, the wind with this storm way up in Baxter County, which is almost to move into Missouri right now. The storm is on up to the northeast and moving completely out of our state. But we just wanted to keep you updated on that. All these storms have that wind potential, but they also have that tornado potential. So let's go back to, if we can, and we'll show you the storm to the southwest of Marshall right now. And the velocities on it still not impressive at all, but that is the kind of thing that we're going to be looking at. These appendages, these little arms hanging back off of the south side of these storms. So Marshall, be prepared. This is Searcy County. And then on down to the southwest, all of these storms will be ones that we have to watch. And we're just looking at velocity on this, and there's just plenty of wind on that one that's moving from Danville right now on up it'll be to the west of Dardanelle eventually. No tight rotation on it, but that is plenty of wind coming out of there, and that's why we're so concerned about all of these storms. They tap into the wind potential, which up above is way greater than down here at the surface, and the winds are plenty strong down here at the surface. And then we have other storms over around Mena, and I think that tornado warned storm, though, is going to be out of our... In fact, right now, I will show you that it is crossing out of Arkansas and headed up into the southern counties of Missouri. So one storm down, many more to go, I'm afraid, for tonight. The tornado watch area, I don't know if they have officially, yeah, they've now issued it. And this is extended out now, as we figured it would be, for most of the rest of the eastern half of the state, in addition to the tornado watch that's still in effect here. But this will be designated as a particularly dangerous situation, a PDS tornado watch. We don't see that very often. And this is just showing that not only will there be a really good chance of tornadoes in several spots, not everybody will see that, but that those tornadoes could be of the large variety, could be large, damaging EF2 plus tornadoes. And that's the kind of thing that we never want to hear, but we are going to be here watching very, very carefully, because every storm that fires in that very unstable atmosphere does have that potential. And so rather than just be scared and not know where they are, we're going to be showing you where the rotation is on these storms. Again, it is not a mystery where tornadoes are once they develop. It is, where there is some uncertainty before they develop, and we can give you a general region. But as they begin to develop, we can tell you very, very well where that rotation is, and maybe more importantly, where it's not, so that we aren't unduly warning areas that are in large tornado warning boxes. But we are watching the ones out to the west right now. That tornado watch, I don't know how long it's in effect. I'm going to guess it's until probably 10 o'clock tonight or 11 o'clock tonight. But you're in that watch. I think we all knew that that was coming, and so we've just got to get through this day, folks. So stay with us here, and we're going to keep you updated on every storm that's out here. We're not going to break out of coverage unless the storm threat really starts to wane, and I don't think that's going to happen. James mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think when these storms start to move, and they've been kind of lagging back here, once they start to move out into central Arkansas, the risk increases. We've already shown you where that high-risk area is, and that mimics that PDS tornado watch. But right where the storms are right now would be considered an enhanced risk of severe weather. We've already seen strong storms there. As they move out a little bit farther, I think the atmosphere is just a little more conducive, not only wind field-wise and wind shear-wise, but temperatures in the 80s, humidity, plenty of it out there. And so it's one of those rare days. That is the exact storm threat box that I never, ever want to show, and yet there it is for today. So we're going to be just concentrating on it all day, and we're going to keep you updated on it. Let's go back to our radar just real quickly, and several storms are going right there. Any that catch your eye? I don't know who's on this. James, do you want to take a brief look at this?
I'm just kind of going down the line looking for areas of rotation within these severe thunderstorms. And as you look back into western Pope County, there might be a couple areas of weak rotation, but there's nothing that really just stands out right now that we have to be really aware of for imminent tornado potential. You go back down the line, and the storm that is most concerning to me is the storm that's coming out of Danville. The Weather Service is expecting winds up to 70 miles per hour are embedded within this storm. It's starting to take on supercell characteristics, and so if this forward flank of the storm here can wrap towards the east or northeast and pull in some of that warm, humid air, you actually can start to see rotation right in this zone right here, and that is what is headed towards Dardanelle, Russellville, and the Atkins area. This is moving off towards the east-northeast. Again, not tornado warned. We don't normally just stay with severe thunderstorm warnings, but this is a day where the situation could change very rapidly. We think storms may go from being wind producers to producing tornadoes very quickly. So we're with it. This is coming up on Petit Jean. If you were on Petit Jean, you would have one heck of a view off towards the northwest, probably a really low-hanging shelf cloud, a real low-hanging base there. Looking through multiple sources, and I've been looking at this storm a lot from the Little Rock radar. The Little Rock radar is measuring 60-mile-per-hour winds at a few thousand feet just off the surface. So we definitely think some very strong winds are probably getting down to the surface there in Yell County. You see, it's not your classic area of rotation either right now. It's there's the pocket of strong winds right there that's moving off towards the east. There's not really any other component to that, at least at this current point. I'll go back out and we'll take another look at the overall Arkansas weather situation. We've got storms going up in northeast Mississippi. We've got some storms trying to go up in Lonoke County. And as we'll just watch them over the course of the next few hours, we'll see if any storms in advance of that line can really take root, mature, and begin to produce tornadoes. That is a big concern today, anything in advance of that main line. I just looked at some new data, and it continues to show a few cells getting their act together in front of that line, and those will become big tornado producers, we think. And again, it's 3 o'clock. We have yet to see storms really get into the metro area. I think that may happen closer to 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's really when the threat begins to kick off. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning I'm going to show you, and it includes Conway County, it includes Russellville, it includes Morrilton, and it is going to be in effect here for the next 30 to 45 minutes. And this severe thunderstorm warning, if I can pull up the text here, it is going to be for, let's see if they've got the warning specifics on it. That's 70-mile-per-hour winds. So they are expecting 70-mile-per-hour winds to cross I-40 somewhere between Russellville and Morrilton. And it is now, this thing is picking up speed. We thought this line probably would. It's now moving at 60 miles per hour. So I'll put a storm track on this, and right now we're tracking high winds. I think at any point we may be switching into more of a tornado threat. But that is the storm that's off towards the northeast of Danville, and it's picked up speed. It's going to be heading in the direction of Damascus. Maybe Clinton's a little too far towards the north. Greenbrier, I would consider you possibly in the path of this thing. But this is 3:15. It'll be coming up on Dardanelle as it moves at 60 miles per hour. Atkins area, same general area there just a few minutes later. Appleton, Bethlehem, Choctaw, and then I would say if you're between Clinton and Damascus here, in just about 1 hour, this will be getting into either northern Faulkner County or maybe the southern part of Van Buren County on its current trajectory. So that is the current view with the most severe storm in our television market. Again, we're watching for areas of low-level rotation with that storm. We don't see it right now. If we do see it, I promise we will let you know. As I go back down the line to look into Polk County, I don't see any significant areas of rotation, but we do have storms that are developing. They are severe. And then for those of you out in eastern Arkansas, I know the line is pretty far away, but what we're seeing now is the development of some storms near England, in between England, Carlisle, and Stuttgart, kind of in this zone. If these can form into a larger storm, we may have to watch for that. I think that's not going to happen until this is well north of I-40. That takes time. It doesn't just happen very, very quickly. So I don't think there's any imminent threat to you guys in eastern Arkansas right now with the storms that are developing along the I-40 corridor. We do want to check down to the southwest, and you look at the storms that are coming out of northeast Texas and southeast Oklahoma, and look at the storm right there as kind of getting its act together. And the same can be said probably for the storm on the south side of Mena and maybe down into northern Sevier County. All these things are just things we want to keep an eye on. And as the viewer, you being at home today, whether you're watching for entertainment, whether you're watching for safety reasons, you can let people in your circle know when severe weather affects them. Maybe somebody in your life that has no idea the weather is going to be bad today. You can keep an eye on the weather for them. And as you look at the line of storms, it still is kind of in that northwest third of the state. But here over the next hour, it's going to begin advancing towards the east. And with this storm really reaching maybe north of the metro area at 4 o'clock, I think that puts the back west side of this line here in the Little Rock area closer to 5 p.m. I think that's when we'll really start to see our threat rise. Guys, right now, we don't have any tornado warnings in the state. It's just severe thunderstorm warnings. That's certainly a good sign so far.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, all that circulation moved to the north, and hey, we're going to watch this for a while. I am watching one of our weather cams that is looking now from Perryville over toward Danville and toward that storm that has all the wind along with it. And I'll kind of step out of your way here. But that is the storm, and you can kind of see the wave pattern of the clouds. There's so much wind energy up above, so much turbulence in the atmosphere. And so we are watching that storm as it moves this way, and our network of weather cams all around the state. We're going to have those as we see this line of storms progress through. A line, though, is in a broken nature, several cells within it. James mentioned the ones out to the east of Little Rock right now trying to develop, right over along the Mississippi River near Helena, West Helena. And then the more obvious line, which is back into western Arkansas, and boy, there is just a ton of rain and wind along with this. And let's go all the way from Marshall all the way down into the Highway 7 corridor. This is the Fort Smith radar looking at this, and it just shows a little more rain, but it shows the exact same thing as the Little Rock radar. And so we go to the closest one. You get the better view as you get closer. That's plenty of wind that it will be headed up toward Dardanelle and Russellville within that system right there. That cell is just a wall of wind, really. Highway 27 progressing up toward Dardanelle, the river, and so that's why that is a severe thunderstorm warned area. And really, all the places that these storms will touch, they'll be severe thunderstorm warned today. Headed on down to the south. A lot of rainfall, Briggsville, Gravelly. When it starts raining heavily in your area in western Arkansas, your threat is diminishing shortly thereafter. It's that leading edge, though, of it, where it's very, very warm. And it will continue to be that way. And we'll watch these storms in Mena and points on down to the southwest. Kind of all out by themselves. This is going to go on for a long time because the system itself isn't progressing very quickly off to the southeast. A lot of times we'll have a round of this, and then the front itself sweeps on through and ends our threat. Today, that won't happen. We'll have the front coming into the state. This is prefrontal, actually, and then it's going to go stationary within the state, not only extending our threat for heavy rain within thunderstorms, but extending our severe weather threat to tomorrow afternoon, to Friday afternoon, and then just periods of time and through Saturday when the main system comes through. So there are other severe weather threats coming for the next few days, and tomorrow part of the state has actually already been issued for an enhanced risk of severe weather. So it's not just a slight risk. But for today anyway, our high risk is over into the eastern parts of Arkansas. We're just one step behind it here. If this is a 5-point scale, this is the 5 right here. This is a 4, and this is a 3 and a 2. And so we're in that very, very high area. If it was just a moderate risk, I've said this, with no high risk in here, that would be very concerning. But there is a bullseye of a high risk as well as the storms move over into this area. We're going to watch for just little cells that are all out by themselves. Those are the ones that have free reign to get as much energy into them as they want. They tap into they don't have to compete with anything else. And so that's why our concern grows a little bit the farther east that it goes. Stay tuned. Let a friend know that we're going to be on the air and watching this. Again, no tornado warnings in the state right now. We're going to continue with this coverage, though. A tornado watch has been issued for really all the state right now. And these are the tornado warned or severe thunderstorm warned areas up to the northwest. You don't see any red tornado warnings as of yet, but the watch that was in effect has now been extended into that eastern part of the state, and the Storm Prediction Center says that is a particularly dangerous situation, a PDS tornado watch, as we call it, and that just means that the likelihood of severe thunderstorms that will have a tornado is in that area. And there aren't a lot of days in the course of any year that we really see that a whole lot. But this is one of those days.
All right, Barry, I want to go through Futurecast while we have a chance to do so. The latest data, again, that continues to come in shows prefrontal storm development. And when I say that, I'm talking about storms that get their act together way in advance of everything else. So you've got one out here, one out here. There's really no telling that that's exactly where it's going to be. We're just taking away the general idea. And the general idea is that we could have isolated cells moving northeast through the eastern half of Arkansas. And that would be very concerning because those tornadoes could be down on the ground for a long time if those storms do produce. So you got these cells that look like they're going to move east. This is 5 o'clock, Futurecast, and there's a couple of things that stand out to me. One, this is not one just completely solid line. It's a broken line. There's a little bit of breaks, and with that, you could have supercells embedded within the line all the way down the I-30 corridor. And as these storms move towards the northeast, we think significant severe weather would be possible, damaging winds. the tornado threat certainly would be present. The skies will certainly darken over central Arkansas as we get towards 5 o'clock as storms move in from the west. After that, we think the supercell tornado threat continues for several hours. By 7 o'clock, we start to see more of a congealing into one solid line, but still, tornadoes, very possible within this line, very hard to warm for, but very possible along with the damaging wind threat. We think that's all a possibility. I think we're going to see a lot of wind reports, especially in eastern and northeast Arkansas. I think 80-mile-per-hour winds not off the table, and that can do a lot of damage. You can have a lot of tree damage over a very widespread area when you have a situation like that. So we'll be watching for spots to do that. We do think that this evening, the threat doesn't just immediately end. I think there's still a supercell tornado threat in eastern and southeast Arkansas as we get deeper into the evening, maybe 8, 9, and 10 o'clock before the threat really begins to end. And this can cause some flash flooding tonight for somebody as this band works its way back towards the north. Barry was just saying the boundary stalls out right over central Arkansas. That band works its way back towards the north, and unfortunately, that's going to leave us with tornado threats over the next couple of days. Austin, you continue to watch things. Is there any sign on satellite back towards the southwest part of our state where we might see some isolated development coming up?
Been watching some areas near like Pine Bluff, more notably. There have been some little bit of development down in those locations, down towards the border as well, at Laredo, down towards northern Louisiana. A couple of cells maybe trying to get going. We'll have to keep an eye on those locations here coming shortly. More notably, we're starting to see quite a few power outages across the state over towards areas of West Arkansas. Polk County, that's where the severe thunderstorms just are currently at, seeing around 1,400 power outages there. Around Yell County, or Pear County, excuse me, 300 out. And still waiting to see if there's any power outages out of Yell County, but you can see already starting to rack up some outage reports across the state, just around 10,500 customers out right now. Maybe all due to severe weather, some gusty winds, lightning, hopefully no damage, but we are tracking quite a few severe thunderstorms across areas of northwest and central Arkansas, near Russellville, Danville, all the way down towards areas of Montgomery County. The storm that was severe and over towards Mena and Polk County, they have discontinued that severe thunderstorm. But you can see a little bit of those individual cells, like James was saying, maybe having to keep an eye on towards Lone Oak, those locations in that warm sector out ahead of this front or out of this line of storms over towards West Arkansas. We'll have to keep an eye on those. I did see a report a little bit ago across just around West Memphis, just on the border there of Memphis and Arkansas, of maybe a wall cloud trying to develop over there as well. So these warm sector storms might be able to quickly produce tornadoes as they're in a more favorable atmosphere, and that was the concern as we've gone into the afternoon. The further we go into the afternoon as well, and like I mentioned a second ago, watching a couple of I'd say showers trying to develop there towards El Dorado. We'll have to keep an eye on as well. But other than that, the main threat right now is these lines of storms that aren't tornado producing, but still likely producing some very, very strong winds near Russellville, I-40, moving off quickly towards the north and east. So stay away from windows, get off the road if you can. We'll continue to watch these storms sliding off towards the north and east. Barry, you got something over there?
Yeah, let's, if we can go to Brett Adair, our live storms media storm chaser. And Brett, I believe, is on that cell that is with a wall cloud associated with it. I think there's a lowering of the cloud base right there, and I think he is in that area. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think he is on that one, and maybe you can get a location on that. He says Arlington, Tennessee. That's where he is. So I'm not exactly sure where that is, but that is a storm that he's watching, and really hard to tell. But yeah, he's watching that very closely. I think that's probably looking across the Mississippi River back into Arkansas at that storm that is there. And I'll show you very briefly what that looks like on radar as we go into that eastern part of the state. If anything, we'll kind of monitor that picture and I'll let you know. But it would be, I believe it would be the storm that is right there near Marion and Crawfordsville over in far eastern Arkansas along I-55 where 40 and 55 split off there. I think that's the storm he's probably looking at with a velocity on it that, yeah, it's just beginning to show signs of rotation there. So I'm thinking that's where Brett is. He will be looking at all those storms, I think, in the eastern part of our state today. And so we'll be monitoring that.
We've got a live view too. We've got Ken Ashland and Ashley Lunningham in the Russellville-Atkins vicinity. They've got a shot up right now. Let's see if we can take that. And that is them as they are headed on I-40 towards the west. You can kind of see the base of that storm. They'll be out and about this afternoon. And I believe they're not quite in range of the actual storm, which we are actually starting to see an increase in rotation on. But that is what you're looking at as you're driving I-40 west. That's the view from our photojournalist Ken Ashland and our reporter Ashley Lunningham. Still looks like it's mainly a high wind threat with this storm coming into the Russellville area. Let's go back to Max 1 and look at the radar, and I'll just show you briefly the wind inside of that. So we've got strong wind pushing up from the southwest. Just saw a report of penny-sized hail from Dardanelle, and not surprising, given that there is at least some hail potential today. This storm, again, is racing 60 miles per hour off towards the northeast. This is going to come close to Pottsville very soon. And then after that, it's going to move north of Atkins or near Atkins before going into northern Conway County. I think this is going to miss the Morrilton, Plumerville, Blackwell areas. I think this is headed into the northern section of Conway County, and then maybe from there off into Van Buren County, 60 miles per hour. So it's going to do all that over the course of the next hour. Then weak rotation at times with this storm, but at least for the moment, the tornado potential again does not look very imminent. Remember, this is just getting started. We've got a couple of notches now along the line. I think this is the concern. And when I call it a notch, you're talking about kind of a bend right there. And you've got the same thing down in the Russellville storm, a bend right there where wind can get pulled into the storm at both places, and that's where you can get rotation or areas where tornadoes could be produced. I think as these two storms move off towards the northeast, we're very carefully going to have to monitor that, because the deeper we go into the afternoon, the more favorable the environment gets, and that's what we could possibly see. As I look just real quick for areas of rotation, I don't see it. There's possibly an area of rotation up towards the Searcy-Newton County line, maybe embedded in a very heavy area of rain. But again, no tornado warnings are in effect for the Little Rock TV market or anywhere in the state. We are watching the storms that are out in eastern Arkansas. These are actual thunderstorms now. They're going to take some time to grow. There's no rotation. There's nothing concerning about these storms just yet. But the ones in eastern Arkansas are definitely going to have to be watched. I have photojournalist Ken Ashland and Ashley Lunningham on the phone. Ken, what are you seeing?
So we are coming into Pottsville right now. Definitely hitting the wind bands and the rain bands on the exterior of the storm. Looking over to the west, we can definitely see very dark clouds, very dark gray clouds. No rain as of yet. Looking at the radar, we're coming right into it, but we have not hit any rain. But we are actually going to pull over here in Pottsville and see if we can get a higher angle and kind of go from there.
Yeah, what we can see here is the rain curtains that you guys are about to drive into. Some very high winds there from Pottsville to Russellville, and we'll be checking the power outages here shortly. It looks like they're getting off the freeway at the Russellville area. They're seeing what they can see, and then they'll be headed back in the direction of the metro area as we watch these storms move off towards the northeast. Austin still looks like some general disorganization here with this line off towards the west. We feel like as it approaches central Arkansas, we're going to see it get more organized, but so far, it's not the most organized line of storms that we've ever had. That's good news. And I do want to point out the little cell near Carlisle, we've got to keep a close eye on that one.
Yeah, that's right. I think the biggest concern there is that storm that's near Russellville, around I-40, kind of moving off towards the north and east for those gusty winds. I've been trying to keep a close eye there on the power outage reports, and they're about a 15-minute delay in between reports, so we'll wait here in the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes to see if we get a new one in out of areas near Russellville, Yell County, Perry County, to see if there are any wind reports, or at least indicative of that with some power outages. But you can see those severe thunderstorms continue to quickly race off towards the north and east, towards Dover, kind of right in the middle of it right now, moving towards and through Russellville. Might miss Atkins, or at least the north side. It'll kind of brush it as it slides off towards the north and east. Again, looking at velocity, just seeing some gusty winds there across areas of Russellville.
Hey, Austin, we're
yeah.
going to take their shot again.
Sure,
I think
no
they've got a really good shot of the base of the storm here as it's coming into Russellville. Let's take Ken Ashland's shot. coming in Russellville. Yeah, you can see the base of the storm there.
I'm just gonna sit here for a second.
They're facing the other way on I-40. And you can really see there's probably some very strong wind in this, and that's looking at the base of the storm. The good news is I don't see anything that looks tornadic with that, and we can kind of tell that from radar, but this is what it looks like now in the Russellville area, where high winds are the primary threat with this storm. You can actually see there, look right there on just left of center on your screen, you can see the rain quickly advancing towards the left side of your screen. That would be the rain moving off towards the northeast, rain and wind. So he is right under the base of that storm. It's just a severe thunderstorm and is not tornadic. But that is a live picture that you were getting there. There's kind of a green tint there off towards the right top side of your screen there. But that is a live picture that you were getting. It looks like some traffic is stopped there on I-40. But that's what we're getting as we watch Russellville. Again, we're not seeing very much rotation with this storm. It's been a high wind producer so far. We are watching every storm that's out there. Okay, and so now we're getting reports of power outages in Russellville. That's off the Arkansas Tech campus, the Arkansas Tech Twitter accounts. There's several buildings that have no power. So we do think that that is to blame. It could be lightning, but the storm that just came through the Russellville area produced some very strong winds, and now that's going to be on the north side of I-40. There's one area in particular I think we should watch next, and that's going to be up into northern Pope County. There's some weak rotation there, embedded within an area of heavier rain, and then maybe another area of weak rotation that is towards the southwest of Marshall. You know, I don't want to skip over anybody in western Arkansas, but the cells that are developing now out in eastern Arkansas, if they can really develop, they will become a problem. They're kind of elongated. And they're kind of beginning to take on a shape where you'd think, all right, if these can hold together and grow, they could become severe weather producers. Nothing right now. That's out in Arkansas County and up to I-40. I think these are going to take maybe another 30 minutes or so before they can really grow into anything. And let's go back to Ken Ashland shot on I-40. Let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got, looks like some heavier rain coming down. Yeah, they're still there at the base of the storm. And this is in the area of where we had some power outages reported on the Arkansas Tech campus. So we still have no tornado warnings in effect in the state. We do think that'll change here as we go through the next few hours, but we're really just tracking high winds right now. I think we've also, and let's just stick with his shot here for a second because you can kind of see the whole base of the storm. That is I-40, and let's, Ken, if you can hear me, what are you seeing? Is it only rain?
All right, so we are just off of I-40 in Pottsville. We are pointed west. Ashley, what highway did you say this was?
247.
247, headed west towards Pottsville area. We just sat here and watched the rain band come through, and within a matter of seconds, it went from nothing to the wind picked up very heavily, and now we're in a very heavy rain band. No hail as of yet, just some very heavy rain, and it's coming in sideways because, like I said, the wind gusts are pretty high. We're sitting up here on top of a hill, just over the railroad tracks, and you can just feel the car shaking just a little bit. So nothing too bad as of now, but it is definitely coming through.
All right, I appreciate that, Ken. We thank you for being out there today. You're with reporter Ashley Lunningham. And that storm right there has a history of producing wind damage. It has done so, it appears, throughout Yell County and through part of the Russellville area. At least it's possible. There's a power outage on the Arkansas Tech campus. Let's go back to Max 1. We'll show you the overview and kind of how we expect things to evolve over the next few hours. We've got a few thunderstorms out over western Arkansas. We've got some developing thunderstorms in the eastern part of the state and some attempts at development down in the south part of the state. And this is a high-risk day. That's what we've been saying for several days now, and the Storm Prediction Center issued that high risk for the eastern half of the state. So what exactly does that mean? Well, high risk just means severe thunderstorms are expected to be widespread They're going to impact more people today than would normally on just a day where you have 1 or 2 storms out there, and that the storms could produce significant severe weather, perhaps a significant tornado, or maybe more than 1 or 2, maybe more than that, depending on how many storms can really get going. And the number of storms is not going to be a problem today. There are plenty of those. It's how quickly can those storms organize. We think that's really going to happen as it approaches the I-30 corridor. And just look at eastern and southeastern Arkansas, even parts of central Arkansas. We have been having partial sunshine, temperatures in the 80s, high humidity, and that environment that's present as the wind shear really begins to increase. That's going to happen in the next 90 minutes. Storms probably begin to intensify very quickly as they approach the I-30 corridor. So we're still kind of early on this. If you're joining our coverage wondering, well, it's just rain. What are you guys on TV for? We're just kind of getting you set for what could be a very long afternoon and evening as storms begin to move off towards the east. You look over into the Memphis area, there's storms developing very quickly in the open warm sector. The tornado threat is very high out in North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So far in Arkansas, our main show has been from this line back towards the west and anything that we can see that may develop out in front. Chief Meteorologist Barry Brandt is over there working the big video wall. And Barry, we've been watching some data come in as we've been on air. Still looks like there's going to be an attempt at having discrete supercells out in advance of this thing, and maybe we're seeing some attempts at that now.
Yeah, I think so. There are some storms that are trying to develop out to the east of town here, having some difficulty, but the National Weather Service is talking about a relative in the low-level jet, so in the lower levels of the atmosphere, not the surface, but just above. There's a relative lull in that over central Arkansas right now. They expect in 2 hours that that will disappear and that there will be a real uptick in the low-level jet, which is that low-level component, and then you have the upper-level component, which is very fast winds up above, and if they are at a slightly different direction, I think we're going to start to see some really explosive development out in advance, perhaps, of this line, or just on the leading edge of it. And so that's why we still say, hey, yeah, there's rain, there's thunderstorms now, there's high wind, but we think the threat will probably start to increase as we get a little bit deeper into the afternoon. I know that's not what you want to hear, and certainly it's not what we want to say, but we're just looking at the science of it. We want to keep you updated so that you're not unprepared. We want to prepare above all, and it really makes it a little less scary if we can see exactly where those storms are. For now, anyway, we still got the large severe thunderstorm warning that goes all the way from Searcy County back into northwestern Van Buren County and Pope County. That is a wall of water that's out to the east of Russellville right now. We just showed you the picture from there. If we could take our picture, our iDrive Arkansas, can we take that? And this is from Blackwell looking straight west. So that's that dark storm. Just it's blotting out the sun because there's so much water within that storm. But you can see traffic flowing freely. This is right on the Pope and Conway County line. And this is Blackwell looking to the west. A lot of these cameras are pointed to the east. This one happens to be looking to the west, and so we're going to maybe periodically go back with that. But there are going to be some power outages. I'm just seeing Austin is looking at this right now. There's almost 1,800 without power in Pope County. So that's the Russellville area. And so this is a wind producer for sure. So you folks in Atkins, you're next up with this, and then points eastward along I-40 and then out into Conway County. It's in eastern Pope County right now. No sign of rotation with it. That's the good news. The bad news is it's still a wind producer, and the atmosphere is just so unstable today that you're going to have, even if you don't have a tornado threat, and not all of us will, you're going to have that wind threat. Hail threat has been relatively small so far. I don't know that that will continue, but I tend to think our bigger threats are wind and that tornado threat that will eventually develop as these storms move on out. All right, let's back this on out, and we'll show you more storms over around Polk County, P-O-L-K, not Pope County. And then we have storms that are trying to develop over into Arkansas County and into Prairie County and up to the north near Des Arc there. Just in the developing stages, not severe at all, but those are the things that we're going to be watching, and other storms off to the east. Here's the overview of it. Here is the high-risk area, and it's going to be that eastern part of the state that really has so much energy, and the wind profile will be such that storms that develop, and they have to develop, we think they will because the air is so buoyant, it lifts so rapidly. We think that those will be the ones that have the potential for tornado development. That's really, I think it really, when it gets into the Little Rock area and eastward, that's where we're going to see that higher threat. Right now, the PDS tornado watch is in effect. That's a particularly dangerous situation for the eastern half of the state. There is a watch in effect in the River Valley, but that threat is going to come to an end as the rain starts to edge this way. And I think the forward momentum of this whole line will probably start to pick up speed a little bit as well. But for now, we're just watching those storms that are trying to develop east, that have developed along the line back to the west. And that's where our attention is going to turn over the next few hours. It's quite a storm system right there. But for now, not much happening. I see some other storms that are trying to develop down around El Dorado. So all of those are of concern. The ones out in advance of this broken line right here, the southern end of that line, I think we're going to have to watch those storms in a very short order of time, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Just looking around, I don't see anything more. Austin, I think you were looking at power outages there in Pope County.
That's right. Been seeing some of those reports I was talking about 15 minutes ago, saying that there was about a 15-minute interval before we see what the results were from that damaging line that was moving through areas of Russellville and Pope County. Here's what we're seeing is in around areas of North Russellville. I think Highway 7 is where the main reports are located there in the northern edge of Russellville. You can see just under 1,800 power outages reported there in Pope County. More confined over towards areas of Perry County as well, of 300 outages. And overall statewide, you can see up here on the top of the screen, just under 14,000 reported power outages right now. I would love to see this go down, but we are still anticipating the threat for severe weather for several more hours, and even with the threat of tornadoes as well. Hopefully these are just lightning strikes and there's no damage reported from these storms that are moving through, these severe storms. But we'll wait to see what the case is on that. I saw a report a little bit ago of some wind damage out of Newton County near Western Grove, so kind of north central Arkansas, from those storms that moved through earlier. That was about an hour and a half ago. So that storm ended up being tornado warned as it moved through Marion County and Baxter County just about an hour or two ago. That one quickly raced off towards the north and east, and seeing some weak damage reports up there. Maybe not a tornado, but could have been straight line winds. So even with no tornado, you can get some strong straight line winds that could produce damage like a weak tornado. So again, if you're in a severe thunderstorm warning, just stay in the interior part of the home, well away from windows. If you know anybody out traveling, tell them to pull over into a safe location, not under a bridge. That is not a safe location for anybody. Do not do that. But we are still tracking that line of storms there across areas of Russellville, all the way up towards areas just around Mountain Home, Marshall, those locations. And we'll take a look at velocity of the winds in the storm. Still not seeing any good definite signs of any rotation. And the damaging winds not definite as well right now. But again, we're seeing power outage reports there in North Russellville from that storm that is still sliding quickly off towards the north and east. You can see those two severe thunderstorm warnings there in Pope County and off towards the north and east, maybe towards Conway County and Van Buren County, still seeing those storms. We'll put this in play for you. You can see in the last about 45 minutes or so, those quickly racing off towards the north and east. Heavy rainfall continuing to fall towards Danville. Off towards the north and east towards Pottsville. Those locations getting some very heavy rainfall. Again, take it easy if you're going to be on the roadways. This storm will continue to track off towards the north and east, towards Atkins here right now. Likely some gusty winds, very maybe strong winds, some lightning with that as it slides off towards the north and east. And we're still so far tracking these little bitty showers trying to develop here, and they got that look to them, but still not really taking root. The better severe weather conditions arrive later into the afternoon to evening hours, so these are just little measly showers right now sliding off towards the north and east, but we'll have to keep an eye on this area here in the next coming hours, as well as South Arkansas, for the possibility for additional severe thunderstorm development here coming up. But anywhere behind this line, so from Fort Smith, Polk County up towards the north and west, with all that rain cold air, all that heavy rain moving over those locations, mainly the severe threat is starting to kind of wind down there. That's why the tornado watch was until 4 p.m. The particularly dangerous tornado watch That one for central and east Arkansas, that still goes until midnight. So still expecting severe weather to start ramping up here in the coming hours for central Arkansas and off towards the north and east. Again, when we show you those power outage reports here, in the last 15 minutes, we've really starting to see this go up in Pope County, just around Russellville, 1,800 out in the county right now, 300 towards Perry County, up towards Newton County, the one where I was showing you earlier, telling you about the damage wind report, over 100 in the county there, and Polk County down towards Mena, just under 500 reported without power there. Now looking at areas of southwest Arkansas, not really any storms out there, so maybe some gusty winds or something knocking some tree limbs down, maybe causing some power outages there, but severe weather continues to slide off towards the north and east. Barry, I don't know if you're seeing any more developments there with those little cells down in southeast or at least south central Arkansas, but something worth keeping an eye on here in the next hour or so.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's going to take about an hour for that, but you can see down into Calhoun County, just one storm trying to go up, one trying to go up in Cleveland County and out to the east. Earlier, there was a tornado warned storm up around Mountain Home. Let's take a look at some viewers who sent this in, and I'm not sure of the name on this, but we can see that storm, and it's a little bit, you can kind of see a lowering of the cloud base there. There's obviously some rotation. That's not obviously a tornado, but that was a tornado warned storm. And you can see that kind of the whole storm rotating some. It's an unbelievable shot, though, from a high vantage point of the storm that went through Baxter County. And there were some power outages up there, but we have no reports that there was a tornado that touched down. But it was tornado warned, and there was rotation. And I think we're really seeing that. There's just fascinating pictures there.
That is from Andrea Conan.
Andrea Conan, thanks for sending that to us. Obviously, if you have pictures like that, don't endanger yourself, but send them to us at chime in at katv.com. Look for that, or you can upload them via the KATV app. And if you want notifications of severe weather, download the KATV weather app. I use it. It works beautifully. It just mimics where it shows where you are, and if a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning or any warning or watch you want is issued for that area, it notifies you immediately. It's just an invaluable and free service that we provide here. All right, let's take a look a little bit more at that storm that's barreling down I-40 right now. I think it is a big wind producer, and we're going to go back in on it right there. And moving into the Atkins area right now. It's really racing out there. But if we look at the velocity product with this, yeah, there's no obvious sign of rotation. I think that's going to change with some of these storms later on, especially the storms that are out by themselves. But for now, we're not seeing that. And boy, it's great news, but the great news may not last. And we're looking at just a really volatile atmosphere that's on out in advance. I'm just going to broaden our view again. We see more storms over around Polk County, Montgomery County, not warned for anything right now. And then those several other storms that I was talking about down in South Arkansas, one right on top of El Dorado right now and headed up toward Hampton and Calhoun County. Those are just two that are out by themselves. We hate to see that, but we're going to watch for those storms. Also one in Cleveland County near Risen, just to the east of town. Out to the east of Stuttgart, and just to the north of Desark. Hardly anything to them right now, but they are developing into the atmosphere. And everything in the atmosphere I just don't think is quite right for tornadoes right now. And I think that's going to change, especially here in the Little Rock area. We're still very warm. Temperatures right now, I'll show you, are 85 degrees here in Little Rock. 90 degrees at Camden. Right now. That is an unbelievable amount of heat energy in the atmosphere. Obviously, it's rain cooled over to the west, and for those areas, once that heavy line went through Russellville, your threat really ends effectively, and the Mena area as well. But that is a volatile atmosphere, and the dew point number, which is just a measure, the higher the number, the more moisture is in the atmosphere, is up around 70 in eastern Arkansas. It's 63 here, so a little bit lower, still plenty of moisture into the atmosphere, 68 at Arkadelphia. And I think what we're going to start to see is this number in Little Rock is going to start to go up some. I think the instability, the low-level jet, the National Weather Service keeping an eye on that, is going to start to pick up some. And if we get a wind direction change to more of a south-southeasterly, and I haven't checked recently here in Little Rock, that supplies another piece of the puzzle for any storms that develop for possibly being tornado producers. We hope we're dead wrong on this, but I don't think the science is lying to us today, folks, and we're going to continue to watch these storms as a result.
All right, Barry, let's make sure my mic is on here. Yeah. Let's take a look at what we expect to happen here over the next few hours. Weather Service just went into this and how the low-level wind field really has about another hour before it starts to strengthen, and so that's when we're really going to probably see this line of storms really increase in intensity off towards the west. But all the data we look at continues to favor those little cells that are out in southern Arkansas kind of growing up, and we could see maybe one, two, maybe a few storms try to become supercells out in advance of the main line. That is the main concern today, is that you see just a few storms out in advance of that line, and those storms would absolutely be severe. They'd have a really significant tornado threat, and that, I think we're just a few hours away from that. This line that's back towards the west continues to advance east more as a broken line, but look at that. They won't all produce tornadoes. Not every cell will, but we think there's going to be numerous tornado warnings between that really 5 o'clock and 8 p.m. window from central Arkansas, I-30 corridor, and points towards the east. And eventually, these storms form into one big line. Tornado threat continues, wind threat continues, the flash flood threat really ramps up as we get into the evening hours. That's 9 o'clock tonight. The line begins to shift down into southeast Arkansas. After that, we'll be watching the severe threat slowly but surely begin to wane as we get into the late overnight hours. Let's take a look at your watches and warnings. There's still severe thunderstorm warnings in effect up along I-40, Morrilton, Russellville, and to the north. That's mainly a wind producer. The National Weather Service in Little Rock has just said they are going to let these severe thunderstorm warnings expire. They're going to let these expire. They think there's just enough weakening taking place right now, a chance to catch our breath, where they're probably not going to have any warnings in effect for the next little bit of time, the next short period of time. As we look at the radar again, and I'll pull it up here for you, the severe thunderstorm warnings expire here in about 4 minutes, and that's 3:45 for the Russellville area and up towards Searcy County. Those warnings will expire, and I think we're going to be left with just a little bit of a break. It may not be long, but as these warnings expire, we'll be able to watch the storms that are off towards the south and off towards the southwest. Again, as we hit that 5 o'clock time frame, wind fields are expected to strengthen right along I-30 and into the eastern half of the state. That's why the risk area is where it is. It's not zero out towards Hot Springs and these areas, but we really expect it to increase and things to ramp up right as this line moves into the metro area. One thing I've been noticing is the potential for development down the I-30 corridor and down into south central Arkansas. This is a big fancy term, but those are called confluence bands, convergence. You're getting convergence and you're causing air to rise right there and right there. And so the big question becomes, do storms develop out of that and become mature? I know this looks like just a giant area of rain right now, but Barry, as you look at this, it's not one solid area of rain. There's a thunderstorm, you go a little while, there's a thunderstorm, you go a little while, there's a thunderstorm. And that is kind of the look that you have early on some of our bigger tornado days, where you have isolated or semi-isolated storms, and that's unfortunately how we can get tornadoes here in Arkansas.
Yeah, exactly. And that thing that you mentioned about the low-level jet kind of weakening out in advance of these are thunderstorms for sure, but the wind field inside them really isn't as strong as it was. The National Weather Service says unless something changes, they're just going to let all of our warnings go for right now. But as also you mentioned, those storms that are forming, I think, out in advance of this broken line and even at the southern end of it, I think those are going to be a real problem. I think we've got some time, though, and we will probably be able to catch our breath just a little bit on this, kind of reset, and just let you know that we are watching these storms as they come on in. We'll continue to watch the storms out in the eastern part of the state as well. And I'll just take you can see the storm motion there. There are a lot of activity well out in advance of it, east of the Mississippi River. Some storms trying to get going east of us here in Little Rock, but that's just not really happening as of yet. And then we go to the storms that are still in the river valley right now. A lot of lightning and thunder with those. Rain, yes. No indication of velocity or wind spinning inside those. Rotation anywhere along this area all the way up into the river valley. Austin, if we had any more power outages that you've seen or anything that you've noticed with this line?
I've actually seen a couple of decreases in power outages, which is some good news, but still Pope County being the main area that we're watching since that line moved there about 15 to 20 minutes ago towards areas of North Russellville, so the northern area of it around Highway 7 there. That's where most of the power outages are at. We'll turn to that map there to you, looking at those power outages there in Pope County. Again, just under 1,800 outages reported in Pope County, right in the latest update there about just before 3:30. So still waiting for the next update. Additional outages that we've been tracking have been towards Polk County. They were seeing ongoing or severe thunderstorms about maybe 30 minutes ago, and more warning or outages down towards southwest Arkansas, but no severe thunderstorms down there. It might be just some stronger winds that maybe knock down some power lines or some tree branches on some lines as well, causing some outages. But early reports, there were some wind damage in Newton County, I think near Western Grove. There was a storm there just about maybe 2 hours ago or a little less than that, that likely produced some gusty winds. Some minor damage reports there, but nonetheless some wind damage, but still tracking those severe thunderstorms that have now been expired. You can see not tracking any severe thunderstorms now from Russellville off towards the north and west, but still could see some gusty winds as these continue to track off about 40 miles per hour. Severe thunderstorms are now towards areas of Mississippi and Tennessee. They're around the Mississippi River. Other than that, these storms are likely just producing lots and lots of heavy rainfall, some dangerous lightning as well. Even if you're not under a severe thunderstorm warning, just don't go outside. There's just a lot of dangerous lightning with these, and there's a new severe thunderstorm warning there from areas around Marshall. So towards getting closer towards areas around Mountain View over towards Melbourne. There's that new severe thunderstorm warning there until 4:30, moving off to the north and east at 65 miles per hour. And it's your basic severe thunderstorm with 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail. And we're going to see a lot of heavy rainfall as we go forward today, so maybe some quick amounts across some of these locations that could cause some quick low-lying flooding. So definitely don't want to drive through any of that. Always remember, turn around, don't drown. So again, we're just tracking this line of downpours and storms that were severe just minutes ago. Really not seeing it like they alluded to, the low-level jet. Kind of weaker right now, but expecting to intensify here in the next hour or two. And that's when we expect this severe weather to start to ramp up even more once we get further into the afternoon, into the evening hours there. That tornado watch, the particular dangerous situation watch for central Arkansas and off towards the east, that also continues until midnight tonight. So don't let your guard down. Areas around that line and off towards the north and west, overall severe threat for you should be diminished. That tornado watch is going to expire there at 4 p.m. Around areas just northwest of Russellville. But again, areas here in central Arkansas we'll have to watch. I've been trying to keep an eye on, as well as your pictures you're sending to us on KATV.com/chime-in of any maybe wind reports, damage reports, shelf clouds, wall clouds. Haven't seen any of that. That's great news so far. Hopefully we can keep that down to a bare minimum, but we'll also continue to keep you updated with that, with any pictures that we get that you send us. That really helps us see what reports are out in these locations, so we're always thankful for that, and we can always toss them back to the National Weather Service so they can get a hold of that as well. So Barry, other than that, there's just that new severe thunderstorm that we're tracking up towards the Marshall area, likely just for some gusty winds and some hail right now.
Yeah, we are keeping a close watch on that one storm, and I think the wind field with it did ramp back up just a little bit out to the east of Marshall. Very hilly terrain there off to the east of the Highway 65 corridor as it moves on up to the north, and the storm will have some downpours of rain. That's not showing signs of rotation, but I wouldn't completely rule it out up toward the north end of it, right there. Little notches, little things that we're watching, but for right now, this is a strong thunderstorm, possibly with severe winds and no tornado threat that we see for now. If that changes, of course, we'll let you know. But there is one warning that is in effect, and then we start to move down. And I'm just going to do a little dive into the radar picture out to the west of Little Rock right now. You start to see little showers starting to develop. And we'll get this on our cameras coming up here. But you're going to start to see development there. You're going to see it out to the east of Arkadelphia, to the south of Arkadelphia, north of Gurdon in Clark County. And I think those are the areas, folks, that we're going to start to see explode, and we're going to start to see it run into a little bit better environment. Right now, I think it's going to take a little while. The National Weather Service, and I will back this out, has products that look at the really the spin in the atmosphere. And in the late afternoon, it's really highlighting central Arkansas for the possibility of a lot of wind energy really starting to come back into the atmosphere. If the storms can develop in that area, then those will be rotating thunderstorms. And that's the tornado threat that I think we're really all, we kind of dread it. It's not happened yet, but we're going to warn you about. This is the science out in advance of these storms. You think, well, it's just a warm day here, and it's hot out there. But it's hot and it's fairly humid, and I think things are going to start to deteriorate just a little bit as far as that is concerned. So that's the a little bit worrisome part, but we're going to be prepared, know where to go in your dwelling place. Go to the most interior, the lowest floor of your house, and get as many barriers between you and the outside, walls between you and the outside as you possibly can. Those are the things we're kind of watching now, and then we are watching that one storm that's up into the northern part of the state. And I don't know that we've seen new model information just here lately, but I'm just going to show you real quickly what we're looking at, because everybody's asking, when's it going to be in the Little Rock area? Well, look at this. This is a new run of the guidance, and it says at 5 o'clock, explosive development out in advance of this line and moving into the Little Rock vicinity at that time. Now, that's simulated radar. That doesn't mean it will happen exactly that way. But that's one of the things that we're really watching, and we are under a tornado watch. James?
I think it's very easy when you're going into a severe weather event. I think it's very easy to kind of fall into the, is this what is happening? I don't think there's anything happening. I don't think anything will happen. But I don't want you to let your guard down. I think we are seeing some signs, and the low-level jet core, those winds that we talk about, they really begin to increase here in about an hour. We're really starting to see some signs of prefrontal supercell development. So we've got showers going up in Clark County. We've got some going up in south central Arkansas. I really don't think it's going to take a whole lot for these things to grow. And a lot of the model data that we look at has that happening. And it's not just one model either. I think it's quite a bit of the stuff we look at. I think the longer it takes this line to advance towards the east, that gives us more time to see storms develop out in front of the line. Yesterday, it looked like this line might get all the way to Little Rock before we had storms out in advance, but unfortunately, that has not yet been the case. Now, most all tornadoes in this state, about 60% of them, happen between 4 and 9 p.m. Well, the peak of this outbreak is going to happen between 4 and 9 p.m. We're already seeing a tornado warning there just east of the Mississippi River, north of Memphis. In our neck of the woods, really it's just a lot of rain and thunderstorms over western Arkansas, but something else has caught my eye. I want to point this out. The shape of some of these showers that have quickly developed kind of are starting to take on a little bit of a hook shape there on a couple of these. And we are noticing that up and down the line that we are watching, some of the early look of the showers that we're seeing. They're quickly growing up, and they're starting to put out a few lightning strikes. If any one of these can become a full-grown thunderstorm, that would be a big problem. And in fact, one that has just recently developed in the last 45 minutes from nothing into a thunderstorm north of Nashville, headed towards Glenwood, and that would be one that I think eventually could get into the Little Rock metro area. That would be one that I would look at as a potential down the road for some severe weather. Hey, I don't want anyone to be surprised. Coming up at 3:54, pending any new warning information, we're going to take a commercial break. We will be right back as we get to that 4 o'clock time frame, and we're going to be on with this and as we just watch it unfold. And we don't normally just stay on with severe thunderstorm warnings like this, but the build up to this day and the extreme threat that we have kind of warrants a little bit more attention, a little bit more explanation. We want you to know what's going to happen. Of course, even on our worst days in Arkansas history, not saying that that's what this will be, not everybody gets affected by severe weather, but there could be quite a few people who do get affected by severe weather today. So we want you to have a severe weather safety plan. If a warning is issued, make sure you go to that interior room of your house. Make sure you have a plan. If you live in a mobile home or if you're going to be on the road, make sure you have a plan to get to a safe place within 20 minutes or 30 minutes of storms impacting your location. A lot of showers starting to pop up across South Arkansas, and unfortunately, I don't think this is just going to be the type of rain that just cools us. These could grow up into thunderstorms as we look towards the west, and this is kind of in the area of the state where storms eventually can impact the Little Rock area. Got a couple of storms going up near Mount Ida, the one near Dirks. I think we need to watch. We'll see if that one can hold together. It's going to move northeast towards Little Rock here in about an hour and a half based on its current speed. There's some other showers in advance of that. Really, the whole day is just beginning to take shape. Barry, we've got about 30 seconds before the break. Do you have anything to add?
No, just that we're going to be back here. We're going to be covering this throughout the course of the afternoon, and so stick around with us. We're going to grab a drink of water, and we are going to continue to watch, as I think what will be explosive development coming up in the not-too-distant future. So stay with us, and we'll see you right on the other side of our break.